So Venus will be entering Aquarius very, very soon here. Right after the new year, we get Venus coming into that air sign ruled by Saturn. And this video is about that. We're going to talk about what Venus in Aquarius may be indicating symbolically, breaking down a few charts, and getting ready for this big shift, which is about to come. This is S.J. Anderson. I'm glad to be here, glad to be making another video discussing the ongoing astrology with you. Welcome to my channel. Here I talk about astrology. I break down transits. I try to stay active and engaged with the astrology, both in these long form videos, and I'm doing some shorts now. You may have seen that. Check out my YouTube shorts anytime you want to get into that style of taking in video content. But here it is. Here's this video. Venus in Aquarius, 3 January 2023. So something like 4 days from now, we're going to have Venus coming into Aquarius about 3 a.m. here in Central Europe. A lovely transit, in my view, because Venus is going to come and blend with Saturn during the whole of this transit. And the thing about the Aquarius right now is that the major story of 2023 is Aquarius on a number of levels, particularly in Q1 and then into Q2, because it's Saturn's last dance in the sign that it rules, this air sign of Aquarius. Saturn is the domicile ruler of Aquarius in the ancient system. And so we have this ruler Saturn that's been here since March 2020, changing the world, bringing in the kind of new structure, new boundaries, new borders that Saturn in its day-sect air sign can bring. That's the nature of Capricorn versus Aquarius. Capricorn's more of the roots that are operative at a maybe deeper, maybe unconscious, maybe unseen level. When Saturn gets there, we kind of rearrange the roots. When you come to Aquarius, it's time to act in the outer world based on those roots being rearranged by Saturn. And that's what we've been living through since March 2020. Think about what happened in March 2020. It's almost too literal to even mention, but the whole world shifted into this Saturnine outer reality with new technologies and new rules for restriction and new technologies on the scene, all of that Aquarian turn. And that the way that, the power structures then were embedded with those changes and then kind of enforcing it on the people. And so that's what we're finishing out. Now, it wasn't just that those maybe more rougher turns that happened with Saturn and Aquarius, but we had an explosion of innovation. And that's another side of Aquarius that is very important to acknowledge. The tech innovations, the medical, biomedical, all of that innovative change was part of this last 3 years. And so it's the context. Why I'm talking about Saturn and Aquarius, this is a Venus and Aquarius videos. It's the context for Venus coming now and blending as Saturn is finishing out this time here. We're going to change. We're moving out of Saturn and Aquarius, 7 March 2023, the major story of Q1. And so with Venus here, it's a great opportunity to dig in for this last few months. It's about 3.5 week transit. It will shift out here in about the middle of February. Venus leaves Aquarius, but during this period, this 3.5 week transit, it's time to celebrate and create. That's what Venus is. It's creativity. It's parties. It's pleasure. It's fun. And so we can sort of celebrate life, right? Celebrate. Look, it was tough. Saturn Aquarius has been very rough. There was major transits in 2022 where Saturn was squaring eclipses. It was very rough for the fixed axis. But, you made it. We made it. And there's all kinds of things to celebrate always. What have you been innovating in your life? What new things emerged for you in terms of the changes starting in March 2020? I'm sure there's stuff because you made it and you had to adapt and alter to survive. That's what we do. And so this is the time to celebrate and even create from the space of Venus mixing with Saturn during this transit. So that's the kind of the major theme. I'm going to break down some charts and talk about the timeline as we go. Let's keep moving because there's a lot I want to cover here. What did I have in my Capricorn season summary video? Third major story with Venus enters Aquarius, beauty of Saturn's final months in domicile. So I think I just covered that quite well. I want to turn to Demetra George, astrologer Demetra George, her seminal work here, Astrology and the Authentic Self. Seminal is probably not the accurate term because she's written this 2-volume ancient astrology. That's probably her seminal text because it's the culmination of a lot of her life's work studying the ancient tradition. But this was a very important kind of bridge text, I think, for her au revoir. And you can see here, just check this book out. It's really cool. It's very simple. It's very streamlined. And she goes through how to delineate a natal chart with a chart example in a really genius way. But let's just turn. What does she say about Venus? Capacity to attract what is loved and valued. And then Saturn, capacity to create order, form, and discipline. And, I just wanted to include other astrologers as a part of the conversation. I like to make sure we're grounded with other thinkers and other wise people that are talking about the same things. That way I don't get too off on my own shtick, One thing about Venus I just want to add here, attract what is loved. Adornment is an essential component of Venus. Beauty, music, adornment. This beautification side of Venus is something that I want to add here to her kind of essentialized definition. And I think it has to do with what is loved, right? Because how we appear, the things we put on our bodies, the way we present ourselves is an expression of what we love, and what we value. And so that is a component here as Venus gets into Aquarius. You may consider how to shift or change the expressions of value and the expressions of what you love vis-a-vis physical appearance. You might be coming into some change. I'm growing my beard back out. You can see someone was commenting about that. But how are you changing your appearance, and how might that be Aquarian? Well, what's Saturn and what's Aquarian? It's order, it's form. Maybe you'll get it more structured with your laundry routines or the way you set out your clothes. I was thinking Venus and Saturn can be like putting your clothes out the night before. Often when we're kids, we do that, like the outfits, picking your outfits, getting them ordered, innovating, maybe trying on new outfits, things you haven't necessarily felt, haven't done before, and you just want to try something new. It's a perfect time with Venus and Saturn blending. You may want to be inspired by older things. That's another thing about her essential phrase here around Saturn. Saturn is old things. That's a key essential signification. So I just add that to her list. So maybe adorning with older models. You pull up like Hollywood in the 1960s, early 60s, the last time Saturn was in Aquarius. It's a great way to do fashion. Check out where Saturn was, and then you can look at and be inspired by those fashion trends from the last time Saturn was in a similar sign. Let's keep moving. This is the Tarot. This is the card that corresponds with Venus, the Empress. And you can see here an empress has a crown and holding jewelry and a nice robe here. And it's all about the adornment, the symbols that this woman is able to convey by attaching to herself objects around her body. And then and those objects show like royalty, right? And elegance. And this side of Venus is quite important. And just what I just said, how we convey our values, how we convey messages through appearance. I'm going to keep going here. You've got this card from the Tarot that signifies, or rather corresponds to Saturn. This is a very important side of Saturn. It's one I want to focus on so much in the video here. Vettius Valens, ancient astrologer, calls says Saturn brings eminence and great ranks. And you see in the Tarot, this individual is walking through a womb-like, opening, out from a womb and then opening into the world and stepping into great power and eminence. And I've always loved the world. It's the final arcana in the major arcana. It's the culmination of the story of the fool's journey, and it's this final, place we arrive, going through trial and tribulation, and then we emerge into being reborn into who we are going to become and who we are. This is how I love this for particularly this moment of Saturn, because it's finishing Saturn. Is finishing its time in Aquarius. So I love that this world card can encourage us to think about who we've been born into after this 3 years of Saturn in Aquarius, and then 3 years before that, roughly, of Saturn in Capricorn. We've lived through about 5.5 years of Saturn, very powerful when it's all said and done. And we are being born into a whole new reality of the cycle of Saturn, and then the cycle of Saturn and Jupiter, because they conjoined in 2020. So we have this whole new energetic of reality, and you have that in your life. You have that in how that's expressed through you as a conduit for the powers, the unseen realm, God. So Here's a work of AI art I generated. I like this because I felt like it was quite Aquarian, just odd, but there's a woman, and there's just kind of some oddities here. And this is how I think about the Aquarian. It's innovation, because Mercury rules Aquarius by triplicity, night triplicity. Mercury is a planet of innovation. Anytime you talk about air signs, you have to consider the innovative qualities. And in the case of Aquarius, it's the combination of Mercury and Saturn together. So you're innovating with these kind of deeper foundational turns. And I think sometimes art can be that, because art can stay with us for hundreds of years. I mean, we still talk about the artistic innovations that have happened all throughout the history of art. And so this is the kind of Aquarian nature of art, where you have the genius of Mercury, the genius of Saturn, and then you have Venus there for this 3.5 weeks here in January. Innovate with your creativity is a major, major theme. Okay, let me push and shift. I'm going to walk through charts now, things I want you to be aware of during the course of this transit. 4 January, 10 a.m. in Central Europe. Venus sextiles Jupiter right out of the gate within the first 36 hours of its time into Aquarius. This is a major auspicious transit. Anytime the two benefics collude via aspect, you have good energy, good openings, good energies. This will be after the moon conjoins Mars. And so I like this Gemini moon. It's going to kind of get throttled a little bit by this Mars retrograde, trigger all this retrograde energy. Then shortly after that, that Gemini moon has some openings here to enjoy these overcoming aspects from the two benefics. Look at this chart, by the way, major theme of Q1. The air signs and the fire signs in these very supportive configurations. And these are signs of the outer world, of doing, of activity, of action. And so we'll talk about this in later videos, but this is now the time of the year, January, February in particular, where there's some majorly supportive elections for doing things. This is go time. This is do time. It's not quite yet in this chart, because you still have these two retrogrades, but this can be very useful for planning and getting ready for second half of January and all of February, to use the air sextile to Aries, the Aquarius Aries sextile, new order, innovation, action, power with Jupiter and Aries. And then Gemini with Mars direct there, of the idea sets and the maneuvering with language and thought. All of that's massively supported here in Q1. And this chart, I think, is a little bit of a preview of that. I think this will very much help your planning. You might have breakthroughs here, breakthroughs around how to beautify the actions you want to do here later in January and February. All right, let me keep going. Here's another generated. I'm just throwing some of these in because I like them. This is the last one you'll see, but I felt like that was a nice Venus. And this is all that Jupiter and Aries, right? Jupiter is a mutable planet, it makes the action larger, where there's maybe a lot of balls that we're juggling. And so you have Jupiter and Aries here with that sextile with Venus, where that we can sort of beautify and look out at all of the activity and try to bring some curves and a sheen of brilliance to it. That might be what Venus is. Okay, let's keep going. 9 January 2023, 4:21 here in Central Europe. This is a chart I want to look at right as Mars is about to station direct, which happens 3 days after this. Mars enjoys an overcoming trine from Venus and Aquarius. And so this whole thing I just went off on about this opportunities in January and February. See, we're building now in January. Every day we get closer and more active and more movement and more power, and just all of kind of this busting out of the gate that Q1 2023 is, given the long Mars retrograde and then the Mercury retrograde here right at the end. This is, again, another push from Venus to support Mars in that powerful moment of its direct station. Remember, when planets stop in the sky in the degree of their stations and they don't move, they get extremely powerful. And so the significations of Mars may be coming through here strongly, and openings will emerge for the blocks to be removed, and it's like the clouds clear and you can see the direction forward. This is a major moment for that, with the, again, beauty and art and creativity. Sing about your actions. It's a beautiful way that we can do with music. People whistle while they work, singing while you work. I love doing that. I always put music on when I'm writing. I love having the music that gets me into the spirit of what I'm doing. So sing or enjoy the musical. That's Venus, the sweet singing, right? Vettius Valens. Okay, let's keep going here. The 12th January, 9:57 in the evening chart. This is, let's see, what's going on with this chart? I guess this is the direct station of Mars, and I wanted to include it here because it's part of this upcoming astrology. And yeah, I mean, the blocks are removed. I've just talked about this, so I'm not going to say more about it. You have 12 January. Look for that day. It will be a very important day for everyone. I think we're going to feel a lot of excitement here right on this day. A lot of celebrations online. Mars is direct. Mars is direct. Okay, but you enjoy here. Just to remind us, Jupiter gets freedom when Mars goes direct. We release Jupiter because Jupiter depends on Mars vis-a-vis domicile rulership. Venus can support Mars. Jupiter supports Mars via sextile. Venus and Jupiter are engaged via sextile. So there's this great benefic unleashment here. And I want to party during this. I want to celebrate with people because we've gone through the kind of drudgery, and now we're entering a new phase. Let's party, let's celebrate, and let's sing. That's what Venus is. Okay, let's keep going. I think this is one of the final charts that I want to look at, 11 January, 8:50 a.m. Look at all the aspects with the traditional planets in this chart. This is a chart that, what was going on here? Why did I include this? Maybe it was because of, I don't know, this Virgo moon. I honestly, I'm just going to skip this. Oh, no, I know exactly what it is. So, by the way, when you set your aspect lines in astrology, you can make them bolder if it's a closer aspect. And so what I'm looking at here is the lunar nodes, the south bending of the nodes here, where Venus will hit that point, squaring those lunar nodes. And so the final point I just want to make is that there's a triggering of the eclipse story. All of those fixed eclipses that hit last year, we start triggering that, and Venus is the front-running planet. During Aquarius season, the Sun and Mercury then hit the south bending too. So you may reactivate some of those eclipse stories. We still have Saturn and the nodes in fixed signs, while these faster-moving transiting planets are going to trigger that south bending. So just be prepared for that. Reflect on the two eclipse seasons in 2022. It was April, May, and then October, November. That ongoing fixed story in your chart. This is another kind of a final closing chapter in that, because there is no more. By the time the sun comes to the lunar nodes in the spring, Saturn is out of Aquarius. And so we're winding down that real charged, fixed square between Saturn and the lunar nodes. But keep in mind, in January and February, it's triggered still. So, okay, that's why I wanted to leave that chart. One final little note, and I know this video may be going long, but I think you'll find this interesting. I wanted to show you a chart example of how Aquarius works. So the Rite of Spring, Igor Stravinsky's very controversial but innovative ballet. It took place, the premiere, 29 May 1913. There was riots at the Rite of Spring because it was just too innovative. People were like, what the hell is this? And they got pissed. That can be Aquarius. It's too forward thinking. And then it becomes off-putting and it's distancing because we can't handle the change. And Venus is music. But look at the chart. So here is the chart of the premiere of the Rite of Spring. This is kind of an object lesson in how to look at Aquarius even when nothing is in Aquarius. So you might say, hey, SJ, the premiere of the Rite of Spring, Paris, 1913, May 29th. There's no planets in Aquarius. Why are you talking to me about this? Well, there's always Aquarius. And the way we determine how Aquarius is functioning in any given moment, we look at the two major rulers, Saturn and Mercury. And in this chart, Saturn and Mercury are very close together in air sign Gemini. And so they're trining Aquarius by whole sign trine. Saturn is Cazimi on the night that the Rite of Spring premiered. And so you're dealing with the Aquarius sectors are highly supported in this moment. The innovations, Saturn, the major ruler of Aquarius, highly supported, mixing with Mercury here. And so it tells us that this moment had a strong Aquarian bent because the sector of Aquarius has great support via aspect and the rulers are so well configured. Okay, the next thing I want to just look at, and by the way, look at that Aries. It was a Venus-Mars conjunction in Aries. That probably has to do with the riots. Okay, let me just keep going. I don't want to dwell too long on these chart examples. The final one I'm just going to look at, Igor Stravinsky's nativity. Like, SJ, where's Igor Stravinsky's Aquarius? Okay, that's in his sixth whole sign house. So he was a very Aquarian in terms of maybe a work model. But again, look, to understand Aquarius, we go right to Saturn. He's born during the day, so maybe it's a double dose of Saturn. It's Saturn-Venus. So the whole idea of Venus coming into Aquarius and mixing with Saturn, blending with Saturn, we're combining Venus and Saturn energies. You can see how Igor had it right in the chart. And I think it gave him that innovative power of the Saturn. I think probably if you hear some of his later music, very Neptune, but it tells us how when Saturn expresses through that musical Venus, which happens now, January 2023 and into February, we can get innovative and strange and different energies that might be off-putting and future thinking or future oriented. All that Gemini in Igor Stravinsky's chart, and he's a very Mercury-ruled Gemini, power Mercury. Mercury, of course, the night triplicity ruler of Aquarius. I know he's not born at night, but that he's power Mercury also gives us this sense of innovation that he was known for. That's the major maybe label for his musical career, his composition career, innovative. But anyhow, okay, I'm just going to move on. I wanted to bring those charts in and show us how we can talk about these symbols that are activated now, even if it's not strictly placements in Aquarius, by looking at those rulers. So, okay, I think that's going to be it. It's great to be with you. Have a wonderful Venus in Aquarius in this January, February pocket. You can go to my website, sjanderson144.com, check my reading schedule. It's all there. See my latest videos and just enjoy the new year. This is going to be my last release before 2023 begins. And I want to wish you the best of 2023s. So much is changing astrologically, and I want you to, my hope for you would be excitement. And excitement for what's to come and excitement in your life. And so I hope you can find a little bit of that here over these next few days. And so take care, and I will talk to you very, very soon.